Hello everyone, this is Dustin from Family Memories. We're going to talk about resolution today. So where I'm at in my project, I've just been starting out. I've got a stack of photos that I want to scan, and I have an Epson scanner, and you'll see here on the screen that this is the software that comes with it. There's quite a few different options. I've got it set to professional mode. I'm not really going to go through all the options here because really I'm focusing on the resolution. On that resolution, I've got quite a number of options from 50 all the way up to 12,800. So it's a pretty big scale, and so I need to know what that means. So I'm going to show you here what I've got on the scanner, just a picture of my brother and I with our dad when we were younger. And so it's going to give us a little preview before we do the actual scan. And we're going to fix that up a little bit. I like to rotate him so I can see what I'm looking at. All right, so this is the preview, and we're just going to do a resolution. I've heard in the past, I've heard that 200 or 300 is a good resolution. It's a little on the lower end, but we're going to find out. So I'm going to pick 200, and we're going to scan that. It's going to drop it into a directory. I'm using here Windows 10, and we're going to let that scan. Doesn't take long at 200 DPI, and so we got the scan here. And so we're going to open that up with a program called GIMP. And just a little way to look at these photos in a different way. So we're going to open this up. This is the scan we just made. And here it is. Looks great, right? Now, this can be a little deceiving because on screen, things look different than they do when you print. Now, I realize that we're not all going to be printing. I'm not going to print all of my photos, but there are a few that I think I'd like to turn into a little project or a gift or something. And so that's really what I'm thinking. And when you go from screen to printing, things change. So on this particular photo, you'll see that it is 200 PPI. PPI and DPI, it's pixels per inch and dots per inch, and really they're interchangeable. It's those little pixels or dots of color, put them together, you've got an image. So it's 200 by 300 or 200 by 200 PPI. The photo itself is about a little over 3 by 4 inches, so a 3 by 4 inch picture. Now, on a screen, the resolution really isn't 200. So think of resolution as different devices display these images differently. So they're not all equal. On a screen, we're going to change, that's why I use this program, as we can scale the image. On a screen, it really only shows you 72 pixels or dots per inch, which is really kind of low. And so I'm going to show, this is in inches. This thing would be 9 by 11. And so you think, well, that's great. That's exactly what I want. Like if I wanted to make say a 5 by 7 or an 8 by 10 of this picture, it would work, right? Well, different devices display differently. The resolution on a printer is not the same as what you would see on a screen. So we've got to change the resolution to what a printer would do. And printers, the minimum resolution is going to be 300. And some of them are 600 or even more. And that will make a big difference. So if I just do the minimum of 300 pixels per inch for what a printer does, the image doesn't look like it's changed that much, right? But look at the print size, 2.1 by 2.6. It's actually gotten smaller. So a printer printing at 300 dots per inch will print this photo smaller than the original. And if I try to make that bigger, you really won't see it here, but I did a scan. Let me show you an extreme. If I open up an image that I did that was really, really small, it was at 50 dots per inch. It really illustrates this. The image is smaller. And if I try to make this big, if I scale this, to 300. That's what our printer would print, is 300 dots in an inch. It doesn't look like it's changed that much, but it's so small that if you try to make that bigger, you'll see it's very pixelated. And so I can't make it bigger. I can't add more dots to an image without a lot of complex things. You just can't do it. So taking the pixels away is a lot simpler because you can go down in resolution, but going up, this is what happens, is that it's just trying to make those pixels become bigger because there aren't as many of them. So that's a big difference between printing and what you see on the screen. So just because it looks good on the screen doesn't mean that it's going to look good when you go to print it out. An easy way to remember this is you take the longest side of your photo and you shoot for what the scan resolution on the software to make 4,000 pixels. So for instance, I know that this particular image is 4.25 inches. So my scan resolution to get to 4,000 pixels would be, it's not perfect, but between 800 and 1200 DPI on my resolution. And so I can see that I've got an option between 800 and 1200 that would give me 3400 or 5100. So I'm going to have to decide whether I want to overshoot or if 3400 is enough. And for me, 3400 enough is going to be enough for this because I'll be able to print this out and have a really good image. So that is the way to do it. It's not one size fits all, so 800 is not going to be my resolution I'll use for everything. For a small photo like that, that would work. For, say I've got a picture that is 6 inches on the long side, I could probably do a 600, and it's going to be pretty close. If I knew I was going to do more with it or crop out part of the image, I would go higher. For a 10, like if I was doing an 8 by 10 inch picture, then the long side would be 10 inches. I could do a 400 DPI. That would give me 4,000. But the smaller I go, let's say for instance, I have a negative, which I do have, some negatives I'm going to do. The negatives I'm measuring are only 0.78, I'm sorry, 7/8 of an inch, which is 0.875 inches. If I scan at 800 even, that's only going to be 700 pixels on the long side. So I've really got to ramp it up, and I'm going to be probably 4,800 pixels per inch to get that resolution because it's such a small little image that it has to scan. So that's the rule of thumb, is to take the longest side of your photo or whatever you're going to be scanning and shoot for 4,000 pixels. There's just a little bit of math involved to figure out what you're scanning in, what's your resolution. So if I have that back up here, this one I measured at 4.25 inches. I just got a little ruler out, measured it, and I figured out, multiplied that by 800 pixels per inch, and I'm going to get 3,400, and so that's going to be my target. So that's the rule of thumb. So you're working well, and I think that'll serve you well for later. What I'm trying to avoid is I scan all these photos and then later I want to do something with them, or I give them to someone like a family member and they want to print out a photo of one of their favorites, and then they go to print it and they can't print it out very big without it being pixelated. I'd hate to have to either go rescan it, or for some reason the originals are no longer available, then that's all we have to work with. And so I'm trying to avoid that. A little extra time on the front end, but it's going to pay off in the long run when you can give those to family. You can use them later and use that original scan without having to redo it. So thanks for watching, and have a great day.